Hello everyone, we got one last video here today. We just finished up the draft. We took a couple of other videos. This is our last video. We saw an interesting signing for a depth defenseman in the Winnipeg Jets organization. We saw the St. Louis Blues backup get extended, and we saw two very interesting player swaps involving Washington, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh and Buffalo. We'll get to all these updates from our past couple of days coming up right now. Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here at the End-to-End Hockey channel. Now remember, before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this without all of you guys. So if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for Tuesday's live stream at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time, talking about the free agency. So very interesting note there. But in today's video, we have a very interesting one. We saw two more signings and two more trades involving players that happened earlier today. So we'll touch on all of these things here. So first, Hayden Fleury, who's a left shot defenseman, can play on the right side. He's 28 years old, very solid 6'7" guy. Winds up signing a 2-year contract extension in the Jets organization with the AAV of $950,000. It was mostly a healthy scratch this year. Had some injury troubles. Had 7 assists in 39 games this year for the Winnipeg Jets. His highest point total since the 2019-2020 season in Carolina. So it had been a while since Fleury had 5+ points, and he was able to do that in only 39 games. So the Jets obviously see something in Fleury, and I do think long term he could be a really solid third pair guy, maybe a 6'7" guy. He's on the younger side, but he's still not overly young. So a very interesting pickup here. It's a solid depth addition there for the Jets. I think it could be a solid 6'7". So very interesting note there, but the Jets have signed Fleury to a 2-year extension. And then the other extension we saw was with the St. Louis Blues as backup goaltender Joel Hofer, who's on the younger side, only 24 years old. A lot of people thought might be a potential offer sheet candidate, has wound up extending in St. Louis. He gets a 2-year contract extension with an AAV of $3.4 million. This Blues team feels like long term Hofer could be Binnington's replacement once Binnington either moves on or retires or whatever he does. I think Hofer's going to be a really solid goaltender. He had 30 games played 2 years ago, putting up a 2.65 JA, 914 save percentage at the NHL level. Last year had a 2.65 JA, 904 save percentage in 31 games played. So he's only played in 61 games as being the backup to Binnington, but in each season he had 2.65 JA. He had a plus 903 save percentage, so looks like a really solid goaltender, which is why I thought he would very likely have been offer sheeted. But a very interesting pickup here as Hofer has signed a 2-year extension to remain in the St. Louis organization. So a really solid pickup here for the Blues as they're able to keep their backup. And then we saw two trades involving players and picks. Remember, I'm not doing pick for pick swaps, like there's so many, I'm not going to do any of those ones. But there are some very interesting pick and player swaps. So first was the Pittsburgh Penguins and Buffalo Sabres. The Sabres have acquired Isaac Belliveau and Connor Timmins from Pittsburgh for Connor Clifton and the 39th overall pick in this draft. So Pittsburgh used the 39th overall pick to draft someone in the draft. They also got Connor Clifton. Clifton, 30 years old, in the final year of a 3-year, $3.33 million AAV deal. He's a right-handed defenseman. This past year for the Buffalo Sabres had 1 goal and 16 points in 73 games, which was 3 goals and 2 points shy of his previous total with the Buffalo Sabres. He does have at least 15+ points in each of the last 3 years. So I do think Clifton is going to be able to play third pair minutes in Pittsburgh, be a solid guy, and if he's playing really well, could maybe be a trade deadline acquisition if the Pittsburgh Penguins, which a lot of people are expecting, don't do overly good this year. So it's an interesting pickup there for the Penguins. The Sabres also get Isaac Belliveau, former I think 5th or 6th round pick a couple of years back from the Pittsburgh Penguins. Split time this year between the AHL and the ECHL. Had more points in the ECHL than in the AHL. So he's a lower end defensive pro, so probably like a C-level guy. I could eventually see Belliveau be like a 7-8 defenseman, maybe like a call-up option, but I definitely think it will probably take some time. So very interesting note there. The Sabres also acquire RFA defenseman Connor Timmins. He's a right shot defenseman. He's an RFA, as I just said. This past year with the Toronto Maple Leafs and Pittsburgh Penguins, put up 3 goals and 15 points in 67 games. So he looks like a decent third pair guy. I still think Timmins can be a solid third pair ad there for whoever winds up acquiring him. So we'll see in the next couple of days if they do wind up qualifying him or not. But I do think if they do sign to an extension, Timmins could be a very solid addition here for the Buffalo Sabres. So very interesting note there. But Timmins and Belliveau were acquired by Buffalo from Pittsburgh for Clifton and the 39th overall pick. And then we saw another interesting player and pick swap between the Capitals and the Wild, as the Capitals acquired D Chisholm, who's another RFA, and the 180th overall pick from Minnesota in exchange for UFA Chase Priskie and the 123rd overall pick. So the Wild move up 57 spots in this year's draft, and they acquire Chase Priskie. Priskie's 29 years old, pending UFA. Very likely chance I think he will walk. I don't think he'll stay in the Minnesota organization. He had 4 games of NHL action a couple of years back in Florida. This past year, 12 goals, 35 points in 59 AHL games. So I could see maybe be signed and be like a depth defenseman there for the Minnesota Wild. Wouldn't be one bit surprised if he left. Meanwhile, the Capitals trade down 57 spots, but they also do wind up taking D Chisholm. Chisholm last year had a pretty solid season over Minnesota, putting in 66 games his first full NHL season, having 2 goals and 12 points. The 12 points being a career high. So very interesting note there. He looks like a very solid defenseman. I could see him be a solid 6-7 guy on the Washington Capitals, and maybe grow into being like a third pair defenseman. However, he is in need of a new contract, so we'll wait and see if the Caps do wind up signing him, but a very interesting deal there. As the Wild move up 57 spots and get a pending UFA, while the Caps get 57 spots lower in this draft and get an RFA. So a very interesting note there. But those are all the updates from our past couple of days. Those are the player and pick swaps with Washington, Minnesota, and Pittsburgh and Buffalo. And those are the very interesting signings from Hofer and Fleury. Lots of interesting stuff there. I'd love your guys' thoughts on all this down in the comment section below. How do you think the Hofer and Fleury deals work out for those two teams? And who do you think win those two deals at this point? I think Washington probably wins the Chisholm deal, and I think Pittsburgh wins the Clifton deal, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts. That's all I'm going to talk about for today. Remember to like this video, and for the legend, remember to subscribe below. Thank you for all of your support. I would never be able to do this with all of you guys, so if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe button down below. Don't forget to leave a comment. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Don't forget to stay tuned for Tuesday's live stream at 9:30 a.m. Mountain Time, talking about free agency. I also do a blog talking about news, rumors, analysis, stuff like that, so check that out. I've linked that down in the description below. Can't wait to see you guys all for the next video. See you guys soon.